Title is Greta Mendez. I'm a child who is constantly looking for a way to express myself. I sometimes find it in dance. Dance is my first love, and that is no joke. Dance saved me. I had a not very nice childhood, and people don't believe it now when I say it. I was very quiet because I didn't grow up with my parents and stuff like that. And I grew up in a little village where I was the only person who looked like me. If I was brought up in Port of Spain, it would have been easier because they were much more mixed up in there. I grew up in a beautiful little village called Faisabad, and you hear the Indian name inside of there. And my mother is Trini, of all that means, African and Spanish and all of that, and Carib, because I do have Caribbean name, which is really great. But my father is Canadian, white Canadian. But I didn't know that as a child. I didn't know who my father was. And I was very quiet, very recluse, and I had a lot of little problems. And when the very, very shy, very thing, and very lost in the world, really, not knowing who I am and what I am. And because I'm the only child of my mother and father. And the physical education teacher came into school, and I was walking down the corridor, and she said, "Oh, this little girl looks like she can dance." When I trained at London Contemporary, it was really, truly experimental. It was much smaller than it is now. Yeah? It was really into this fabulous, it was like a laboratory of experimental work. You had the company, London Contemporary, run by Bob Cohan, but at the same time, we used to be doing all sorts of craziness on the stairs, breaking down all the rules. It was really a hub of that. And suddenly I was into a world where people were obsessed in the mirror, with the image in the mirror. I couldn't understand that. I did not grow up dancing with mirrors. I grew up with trying to find the movement from so far inside of me that manifests itself on the way out. So this thing in the mirror did not work for me. And then when you're dancing in space with people, you can interconnect. My energy is coming off my shoulder to connect with your energy and the energy in the back. But then I realized, no, everybody's in their own little frame. Everybody's locked into their frame in the image. And then the divine, the powerful, the Giselle, the panther of dance, William Luther, entered my life. Every bit of this man, in the marrow of his bones, his connection with space, and I was just like, that's why I wanted to dance. Suddenly I saw it again. And luckily he came to start to teach us, and that's when my world changed. And my encounter with the very early Alvin Ailey. I meet Alvin Ailey on one, he's coming down, I'm going up. And I said, "Oh God, you got my heart, you got my heart." And he says, "Babe, I want your soul." I say, "You got that as well, you got my soul, you got my soul, you got it." And it was just in that transition time of the development of mass movers. And they had already started meetings and the ideas were forming. It actually came out of a thing with Nassim Khan, who ran mass at that point, which was Minority Arts Advisory Service. And she had written this amazing book called The Arts of Britain Ignored. Good Arts, right? And she was very, very pivotal in the evolution of mass movers. And as I'm doing my research now, I see some of the early letters she had written to try to get some funding to launch a group and stuff like that. And then I think it was Everett Cochrane, who's a fellow Trinidadian, who said to me, "Greta, we're thinking of doing this group. Would you come and work with us and stuff?" And I went to it's like the ground meeting. I went to the first meeting, and then I remember saying to myself, I've never forgotten it. Okay, I will give this 2 years of my life because this is absolutely necessary to prove that black dancers can do contemporary dance. We can fill the stages, that we are capable of doing this in Britain. But not just contemporary dance. One of the things I was always done, I'm looking back at some of my old notes, is how we can create a form that's unique to us, really. Not an African form, not a white form, not a black form, but a form that's a voice of England, of London. Now, what are my influences currently? Life. It has always been life and its injustices. I always, because from coffee beans to disinfectant, which is one of my pieces, was dealing with the fact of the first world and the second world. There's no first world and second world. But what happens when the sterile world comes into the world of what has happened to destroy? It was also a search for identity. My work has always been subversive, but yet it's never dark. My imagination has never been squashed. And once you can imagine, you can go on. The day you stop being able to imagine a better world, a better life, a better vision. So for me, my proudest moment is that despite it all, and in my geriatric years, that I can still imagine.